volcano set.
The dimensions of that volcano set were well over 450 feet to the long shot area which we had tented in. This artificial inclined lake was 120 feet high.
I don't think any of us realised quite how big it was going to be until they started putting up the girders that towered over the entire studio complex.
It's no longer a film set building, but something quite different.
I'm not sure whether the producers even realised whether Ken was they probably thought he was working in feet when he was working in metres.
One has to be a little crazy, and I think if I look back at it, I was a little crazy.
They used more steel for building that crater than they used for the Hilton in London.
The plasters and riggers wanted danger money, and rightly so.
And all of us that were hardened professionals used to give up our lunch hours just to go and watch the progress of the building of that set. I remember the guys all came over from UA, and one said to the other, God, he said, do you realise this set is more expensive than Dr. No?
With a moving heliport, flying in actual helicopters.
We couldn't believe what was happening there. Mini Mokes running around, rockets going through a roof that would move. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
All the wise guys at Vinewood in the industry said, set is too big, nobody can light it. There isn't a cameraman in the world who can light it.
Cinematographer Freddie Young proves to be up to the challenge.
Freddie had a look at the model and he said, no problem. I can light it.
Young later wrote that it took practically every lamp in the studio to light the set.
It was probably the most ambitious project of interior-exterior set ever undertaken.
Shooting on the massive stage begins on October the 31st, with David Davenport doubling for Sean Connery. Before long, filmmakers face an unexpected problem.
The casting of Blofeld was always going to be difficult.
I think that was a Harry Saltzman casting.
I didn't see him till the first morning that we were going to use him because he hadn't arrived in the country. It was such a last-minute substitute. And suddenly in walked a rather benevolent Father Christmas, rather a sweet-looking old man. Cubby said, my God, this is ridiculous. What are we going to do? I said, well, we'll just see what we hear, so we might as well film him.
When it comes to a James Bond film, when you're running probably even in those days at $100,000 a day, minimum, you're making a big commercial decision to recast.
The crew shoots for 5 days with John Werrick before Lewis Gilbert realises the part must be recast.
I had to go to Cubby and say, look, we've got the same problem. But this time I know that he won't commit suicide because he is a well-known Czech actor.
One day I turned up, I suddenly realised that the person sitting behind me was not the same person who'd been sitting there the day before.
Filmmakers cast Donald Pleasance to take over the role.
You only live twice, Mr. Bond.
Other performers travel from Japan.
We brought a small team of genuine Japanese martial art experts to England.
And I remember Bob saying to us, now don't outdo the ninjas because they have a great deal of pride. Well, I found in the end that their pride didn't extend to going up into the roof and coming down the ropes. They didn't actually like heights.
The final assault on the volcano base requires over 100 stuntmen.
It was just a bit awe-inspiring when you first go there and you look at this huge structure and realise you have to jump off it.
Well, I had complete confidence in Bob and his boys, you know.
Bob Simmons wanted everybody coming down ropes as quickly as possible. Well, it would have been impossible to slide down the ropes without burning your hands. So I introduced a gag, which I'd used on a previous film, of a piece of hose pipe.
As you get near the bottom, you turn the hose pipe on like a brake shoe.
And you could come down very, very rapidly indeed. In fact, one of the stuntmen came down so rapidly, he broke both his ankles.
That was the first ninja sliding down the ropes, one-handed firing a machine gun.
We had about 40 or 50 stuntmen coming down like bullets. And even now, it's still quite an impressive sequence.
The film helps usher in the use of mini trampolines for stunts.
And it worked very well, except on one occasion when a stuntman who was possibly less expert on the trampoline than in other skills, he missed the bed that he was meant to be landing in, landed on his head, and became one of the walking wounded.
Despite the jaw-dropping action, filmmakers must still complete the movie's most dangerous scene.
Once that accident had happened, there was not much more we could do out there because the Japanese were not prepared to let us fire rockets over their national park area.
Second Unit Director Peter Hunt finds a location in Spain where the sequence can be completed.
We did all the rest of the firing over the Sierra Nevada, which looked much like the background in Japan.
Cameraman Johnny Jordan could not be there, but he is not forgotten.
Johnny was in the best hospital. He had the best care for months and months and months on end. I mean, no producer could have been so considerate.
And I must say, Cubby and Harry were wonderful with him. They put him in the London clinic. He had the best surgeons. They had the best of everything.
The doctors would strive very, very hard to try and enable him to keep his leg.
And he said, Cubby, I want this foot taken off.
He was in terrible pain, and it didn't seem to heal.
And Cubby said, are you absolutely sure that's what you want? That's a very big decision. He said yes, so they did.
And he was up and running in no time. It was quite incredible.
After recovering, Johnny Jordan goes on to work on numerous films. His amazing aerial photography is featured on the next James Bond adventure on Her Majesty's Secret Service.
He only wanted to fly, though, because that was he loved that.
Flying was a natural for him. You know, he wasn't frightened.
While filming Catch-22, in a freak accident, Johnny Jordan falls out of an airplane and to his death. His cinematography lives on as part of the James Bond legacy. In the summer of 1967, You Only Live Twice becomes another thrilling chapter for 007. Despite the challenges and dangers, the filmmakers literally look death in the face to deliver a sweeping, elegant adventure. James Bond proves you only live twice, and twice is the only way to live.